I'm delighted to introduce sort of the group. In the session moderator especially is Larry Faulkner, Dr. Faulkner, who is President Emeritus of the University of Texas at Austin. And Dr. Faulkner will lead the conversation today, and also he'll introduce his fellow panelists. Before that, we are also honored to be joined today by UT Austin President Jay Hartzell, who will say a few remarks and introduce the session. President Hartzell, welcome to the meeting, and thank you for being a presenting sponsor.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, and thank you all for the chance to be with you. I feel smarter by association. I really appreciate it. I want to say welcome to 40 Acres. UT Austin is honored to host this remarkable gathering, and as I understand it, for the very first time on our campus, as you celebrate 20 years of research, innovation, breakthroughs, and impact. The traditional gift for a 20th anniversary is China, but my gift will be to be brief, so we can get on to the panel. But right off the bat, I want to express our university's gratitude to two people whose vision and partnership have made it possible for TAMEST to thrive over these past 2 decades. First is Senator Hutchison, who recognized the need for greater research activity in Texas and used her platform, talent, relationships, and sheer will to address that need in a very lasting way. And my friend Larry Faulkner, who was president of UT Austin when TAMEST was born, and worked with Senator Hutchison to establish the partnership between UT and TAMEST that has blossomed over the last 20 years. Fortunately, you'll be hearing much more from them and other outstanding panelists over the course of the next hour. But I do want to note that it's not a coincidence that since they and the others launched TAMEST, Texas has pulled away from the rest of the pack with the strongest state economy in the country. Research, higher education, and economic development all work together, and TAMEST, UT Austin, and the state of Texas have all benefited from their interrelationships. The President's Office at UT Austin has been proud to partner with TAMEST for these 20 years by providing office space, HR support, and other infrastructure. Judging from all that has been accomplished during that time, and by the size and scope of this conference, I would say this partnership has been a resounding success. But what I'm most proud of is the fact that nearly 70 TAMEST members are from right here at UT Austin, which speaks to both their achievement and to the caliber of your membership. These are some of the brightest superstars on our faculty, and I know they appreciate the opportunities this organization has created. TAMEST celebrates the exceptional research, exceptional talent, and exceptional people. Your members not only do the extraordinary work, but you make other outstanding faculty and outstanding students want to come to our institutions to work with you. The research that has been spurred by the creation of TAMEST attracts and talent and builds prestige. Here at UT Austin, we know that the classroom experience that we're able to deliver our 52,000 students is better off because of the research we have here on campus. We also know that this research is central to what we are all about here at UT, which is having the highest possible impact on each other and on the world beyond our campus. Speaking of what we're about, the theme of this year's conference aligns perfectly with the growing focus area for UT. We've declared that 2024 is the year of AI at UT Austin, and we believe the trend towards artificial intelligence plays right into our strengths and our ambitions as a university. Last week, we announced a new multi-million-dollar investment in creating new tenure track, and professional track faculty positions aimed at strengthening the research capabilities, expertise, and academic programs in AI and data analytics. We look forward to bringing top faculty and rising stars in AI to UT, just as TAMEST has attracted top researchers to the state, while also supporting the next generation of researchers through your Protégé program. And I would imagine that some of the faculty we recruit through this new investment in AI will be coming to TAMEST conferences before too long, if they're not here already. So I want to wish you the very best for the conference. I want to thank you for coming to UT Austin. And most of all, I want to recognize the profoundly positive impact of TAMEST on our university, on the Texas economy, and on all the lives that have been changed by your research. So thank you very much. With that, it is my privilege to get out of the way for, as was introduced, President Emeritus, a good friend, a great colleague, Larry Faulkner.
Thank you, Jay Hartzell, and thank you for the welcome. But more than that, I'd like to thank you for being a presenting sponsor of this meeting. It means a lot to TAMEST to have us hosted so well on the UT Austin campus, and we appreciate it. Also with you there are the Bryars, and they are also presenting sponsors, and I want to thank you for the great support that you've provided as well. Let me ask the panel now to come forward. They're going to be occupying these chairs here. I have a few opening comments, and then we'll move to the panel. By any measure, TAMEST has been a tremendous success, fulfilling every part of the vision at founding. I'd say, in fact, that the degree of success exceeds our hopes at the time. The prime mover was Kay Bailey Hutchison. I called her the other night senior senator from Texas, and that's a title that she moved out of, but she still seems like the senior senator from Texas to me.
At least I'm not a senior citizen.
Well, I wasn't using that phrase. Peter O'Donnell, Jr. of Dallas was her indispensable ally at the founding. Mike Brown and Rick Smalley led toward a practical plan, beautifully conceived, I have to say. This organization has never been about honoring those who have been richly honored. It has been about making Texas science, engineering, and medicine more effective, about improving the communication among the leading players in those areas, about developing young people and creating opportunities for them, about bringing talent to the state and making that talent work more effectively. I don't know why you're standing.
Waiting for orders.
I don't either, actually.
Making that talent more effective. Just a few numbers that have been mentioned before, but I'll mention them again. When TAMEST opened the doors to its first meeting, there were 166 members of the National Academies in Texas. Now there are almost 350. 275 have been elected or recruited, 50 proteges elected to the academies since the beginning. Those are really impressive numbers to me, and there are other numbers, but this organization has really been about communication, about recognizing talent, about developing talent, building some excitement in the areas of interest in the state. At this meeting, we announced and have brought into being the Hill Prizes, gave the first awards, and that adds to a set of prizes that the organization has been able to give over time to recognize its members, especially its rising members. What we have here is a panel talking about the founding, talking about how this organization came into being, and there are people here who were there at the founding. And I'd like to introduce the panel. The Honorable Kay Bailey Hutchison, ambassador, former ambassador to NATO, former senior senator from the state of Texas, really the prime mover, the visionary, as I said earlier. Nobel Laureate Michael Brown, professor of molecular genetics at UT Southwestern, who was one of the co-chairs of the committee that brought this into conception. And Bill Solomon, William T. Solomon, chairman and president and CEO of the O'Donnell Foundation. This is Peter O'Donnell's organization for philanthropy, and he is continuing the work of Peter O'Donnell as he leads that foundation. These folks will begin a conversation, and I'm going to go over there and join them We're going to talk about how the organization came into being and just some reminiscences that I think you might find interesting. We'll start with Senator Hutchison, who had the original concept, and you might want to say, Kay, what drove your concern, what problem you were trying to fix, and let's see where we go from there.
Well, Larry, thank you so very much. And Larry, you were very much a part of giving us that first boost because you gave us office space here. And you saw the vision. And when we started, it was because I was on the Appropriations Committee of the United States Senate, and I saw where the medical and science money was going, and it was to both coasts. I knew that we had Nobel laureates at UT Southwestern, MD Anderson, UT Austin, and A&M. We had the greatest research being done, but we weren't looking at where the priorities were for the federal government, where I knew there were billions of dollars being spent on research. So I called all of the presidents of research universities in Texas to a meeting in Washington. And for 4 years, I had a different head of a department where they were doing research. And I knew that we weren't sort of meshing with where the priorities for the government were. So we had NIH 1 year, we had the NCI 1 year, we had DARPA 1 year, the Defense Research Organization of the Department of Defense. So we had the heads of the departments talking about their priorities. And so I just asked the presidents, would you put your people that are in these fields, that are the best in these fields, together, maybe collaboration with other universities in Texas or doing it on your own. And one example was Richard Smalley from Rice University. He had won the Nobel Prize for basically nanotechnology, and he brought forward something that DARPA was interested in, which was making armor lighter and stronger. And that was right up his alley. He brought in other universities in Texas and put together a program that I helped get funded because it was the priority. I wasn't doing something just for Texas. I was doing something that was right for America. And we had the Nobel laureate sitting right here to lead this consortium of Texas, A&M, others together. So that was the beginning. But in one of these meetings, Neil Lane, the provost of Rice, said, we don't know what the other universities in Texas are doing in research. We need to have some kind of a meeting. Well, from that then, both of you would know, we said, okay, let's talk about that. So we started the idea of having a meeting. And then Michael Brown can chime in here. Michael Brown said, well, one meeting? Why not have a meeting every year? I mean, stuff's happening out there. It's new. And so we started thinking, okay, let's do an academy. Let's do an organization that is our best researchers and then take it from there. And it was, I'm going to say a couple of more things and then I want you all to chime in, but the original idea from the Nobel laureates was we want to have our best researchers, the ones who've already been elected to the national academies, but we want them to bring their best researcher in their lab or their department that they know has a future as a protege. So you could have one member could bring one protege, and that would start the effort going for the future. Peter O'Donnell said early on, Kay wanted to bring all the smart people in Texas together, but I wanted to make sure that it was the young, smart people. So he was saying right off the bat, the Nobel laureates and Peter O'Donnell together were saying, we want the next generation to be encouraged, inspired, and part of this growth. And you heard what Larry just said. That was our goal, and that's what we're doing. We are taking the protégés with all of the efforts that are being made to bring them in with the Academy members and the Nobel laureates, and the protégés are becoming members of the Academy in just wonderful numbers. And so that was how it started, and now it's been built because we've had wonderful financial support. You know, I look at the Breyer Capital giving a major gift for this symposium, the University of Texas, thanks to Jay Hartzell's continuing leadership, realizing the value of this and what it's going to do to bring what we want, which is that brain trust of research and innovation in the future to Texas. And Kenny Jastrow and Larry Faulkner headed a committee of two, that would seek endowments. And when you see the list of the endowed contributions, which was a million or more, that's what has kept us solid as we have gone through our early stages of not even having office space to now being able to have not only these symposia, but much more outreach, more of the contest, the poster contest for protégés, the meetings around the state, the Mary Beth Maddox Award for giving a cancer priority task to a speaker every year, a winner of that one. So we're building, and getting bigger and better, and what we envisioned is happening. And I said this morning, Brendan Lee, the president, is our dream. He started as a protege. Then he won the O'Donnell Award. Then he was elected to the National Academy of Medicine, and now he's president of TAMEST. I mean, what more perfect 20th year anniversary can it be than that? So
Well,
you can add to that first meeting.
Well, let me just add a couple of details. First of all, Senator Hutchison has modestly minimized her own contribution. Basically, the whole thing started with her. In fact, I remember at the first meeting, and so what she did was she convened a meeting of the scientific leaders, the presidents of the different universities, and a couple of Nobel Prize winners thrown in, and it was all held in the offices of Peter O'Donnell in Dallas, and as she described, the concept of an annual meeting sort of gradually arose out of the initial stimulus. Something that I remember quite clearly, Senator Hutchison said that she was upset that Texas wasn't getting its share of funding. I remember quite clearly she said, "How could a tiny little state like Maryland get more than we do?" I think Maryland was the thing that was really bothering her a lot. And so then, so we decided to have an annual meeting, and then the idea was, and we would create our own academy, but the idea was, well, who will be the members of the academy? It wasn't initially obvious how people would become members of the Texas Academy. We didn't want it to become political and have it, people promoting, their own faculty against other Texas institutions. So we decided the easy way, let the national academies do the work for us. And so we'll restrict the membership just to members of the 3 national academies. And then I remember quite clearly, one of us said, might have been me, that National Academy members tend to be very old. In fact, as I look around this room. But the fact of the matter is, it was even worse back in 2004 before the academies had this new youth movement. But in those days, of course, I was young, so they all looked old. But the fact is that we said we don't want this just to be a meeting of old men, because that's what the academies represented at that time. And so that's when the idea of the protégés came about. Well, let's have each one invite a young, and then help to promote their careers. In fact, in the very beginning, I don't know if you remember, the first meeting, we had breakout sessions for each of the 3 academies, and we had the protégés within those disciplines make presentations so that other members of the academy would realize how good they were and hopefully would vote for them for membership in the academy. That was one of the key things to try to increase the membership.
It worked.
It worked,
Right,
yeah.
it did work. It did work. And so, that's how it began. It's like watching a flame. You're starting something with a flint and steel, and suddenly there's a little tiny ember burning, and then it gradually builds. And Senator Hutchison put her staff to work on this. Not only did she initiate it and get herself involved, but she had several of her staff members, including Rebecca Davis, who's here, who really did the hard work, because starting an organization like this, you have to become incorporated, you have to have bylaws, and the senator got a law firm to handle that for us. But we did have a problem. We wanted to call it the Texas Academy of Sciences, just like the national academies. The problem was that there already is a Texas Academy of Sciences. How many people here are members of the Texas Academy of Sciences? How many people ever heard of the Texas Academy of Sciences? So some of you know that, 2 of you know that it was formed in 1880. And it has had a checkered career. There were times when it had alliances with UT Austin, but it has kind of dwindled. And in fact, now it's been so overwhelmed by us. But the fact is, they had a copyright on the name. And so I called up the president of the Texas Academy of Sciences. I said, how would you like to let us use that name? And he said, oh, by no means, we've been in business for over 100 years. And I said, well, do you know that the senior senator from Texas, Senator Hutchison, is the one who's sponsoring this? He said, it doesn't make a difference to me. And so we had to come up with another name, and that's why it's TAMEST. Which I think is a better name, actually, because it does incorporate everything we do. And then Tom Caskey from Baylor was our first president, and he really did a good job, and unfortunately passed away. But he got us started, and the little flame, began to build.
Mike, I think it might be good if we could talk a little about Peter O'Donnell.
Yeah.
I think, and maybe Bill could give us some sense of who Peter O'Donnell was. Peter O'Donnell's a great figure in the memory of everyone on this stage, an enormously influential Texan, but he's passed away, and you have his flame, so why don't you tell us a little bit
Well,
about it?
as you said, all 3 of these people were extremely close to Peter O'Donnell. I first met Peter when I was 18 years old. I became very close to him as well. But as you say, he was a powerful force in the state of Texas, a very constructive force, and yet most people, and perhaps many people in this room really don't know who he was. That was in part because in their philanthropy, which was enormous in its scope and magnitude over the years, up until just several years before their death, all of their philanthropy, as you know, Larry, was anonymous. He was jokingly referred to as Mr. Anonymous. When there was an anonymous grant, it most likely was them if it was sizable. But the thing, Larry, one thing I want to say in the context of this meeting, TAMEST was extremely close to Peter's heart for very obvious reasons, and those reasons are that TAMEST really was an intersection of several of Peter's passions. He had a passion for science, he had a passion for medicine, he had a passion for education and research, he had a passion for Texas, and he had a passion for a strong conviction that great things are done by great people. Anything he got involved in, he wanted it to be comprised of the very best people, particularly the very best minds that could be assembled. And so you could easily see why, Kay, when you brought the idea of the whole concept of TAMEST as you laid it out here, why that really energized Peter. And he stayed that way for the duration. And I will point out one other thing, Larry, that as Kay and Mike well remember, and you well remember, one of the first things he did, and one of his great contributions to TAMEST, was early on to say we need an award. And because another one of his core principles was recognition, the value of recognizing exemplary accomplishment. And he further, in typical O'Donnell fashion, said, I'll start the ball rolling on funding the honorary to be associated with the award, which he did. And the rest is kind of history in terms of Peter's role. I believe, Kay, you will bear me out, and Mike, that I think he came to every one of these meetings until he just got feeble enough that he couldn't.
Peter.
So you're right. I mean, the spirit of Peter O'Donnell is here today and always will be.
What's interesting is that he believed in recognition, but he sought absolutely none.
That is so ironic, yes.
True. But two things about Peter, though. Number one, we both came to every meeting early on, and we sat there through the meetings, like this morning I did. And we just loved it. And not that we understood everything, but that we loved the dynamism of the talking between people, and the questions that were asked and explained. Peter did that. He came every time. The other thing, though, about Peter, and I want to especially say this because it portends for the future. Peter didn't just give money to something. He said, we have to have a plan, and that's why he called the meeting that we would start with all the best minds in science and research around his table, and he said, we have to have a plan. And so when we started talking about the academy and who would be members and how it would go, that was part of his plan for the longevity. And I say this because I don't know if Lyda Hill Philanthropies are here. If you are, raise your hand. They've gone. Yep. But she's that way too. Lyda's that way. And in a way, learned from Peter O'Donnell that you don't just throw money, you look at what is being done, what you care about, and then you get the best people with you and you produce something more than just giving money. And I think that for philanthropy was a Peter O'Donnell legacy. And I think that Peter knew exactly what would keep this strong and growing. And those two things about him. The other thing being that he wanted you can't win the O'Donnell Award if you're in a National Academy. That was Peter. He said, I want the young people who are doing the new things to be eligible for this award. So no member of the Academy is eligible. And that was part of what Michael Brown and Rick Smalley and Peter put into this strategy.
That was his sympathy. I do want to say for this audience that we do realize that some of the members of the academies are still doing new things.
This is true, and they're eligible for the Hill Prize.
Another person I think we should recollect here and is Rick Smalley, who I think was also very important at the beginning. We've lost Rick. We lost him very soon after TAMEST got rolling. So I wonder if people could make some comments there. Mike, you might be in
Yeah, I remember very clearly Rick saying, I never join any organization that's just honorific. He said, if we're going to have an organization, it has to have a function. And the function evolved to promote the young people in science. And but it was his challenge to us to make sure that this organization isn't just an honorific thing that just bestows honor on someone, but it actually has a function. And he was dead set in favor of that. He also contributed several of the fundamental ideas. Real tragedy when he passed so soon.
Yes, I got the job of calling Rick to ask him to be the co-chair. We had already asked you, and I told this earlier this morning, but I called Rick cold. He did take my call, and I said, I told him what we were planning to do and that we wanted him to be the co-chair. Silence on the phone. Senator, I hate organizations. I hate meetings, but I love this, and I will do it. And he contributed so much. I mean, this, if you all don't know Rick Smalley, he was teaching freshman chemistry at Rice when he got the call that he was winning the Nobel Prize. That was Rick Smalley. He loved the students, he loved the learning, the teaching, and he and Michael were the ones who said, protege, go out for the new people who are doing the new things, because we'll all learn from that. He's also one that when we were first talking about how we would set up the meetings, we said we had kind of thrown out there, okay, the medicine people will meet in one room, engineering in one room, and science in one room, and they'll talk about what they're doing. Rick Smalley said, oh, no. I'm a chemist. I want to know what the engineers are doing. I want to know what's happening in medicine. And so the idea of having the sections be a medicine section, an engineering section, but for everybody to participate, because he saw that in research, you need to have all three of those perspectives, engineering and science, engineering and medicine. And that's how the ideas would come forth. So Rick Smalley was, oh gosh, I'll tell one more anecdote with Rick Smalley because everybody loved him so much. But we were at a meeting or something, and I saw him across the room, and I went up behind him and I gave him a bear hug. And he said, he turned around and he looked at me and he said, oh, he said, I thought that was my third ex-wife. That was Rick Smalley. He was a legend.
Well, Rick, I'm a chemist, and I knew Rick from times past, but I think not most people probably don't know the battle that he went through to make his ideas accepted. When he came up with nanostructured carbon as an explanation for some of the phenomena that they had seen, he was widely disparaged, and it went on for decades, really probably 15 years anyway. But he had a hard battle, and but he stuck to his guns, and in the end, he was right, which always helps in science.
Oh, golly. That's a great lesson. Did you ever get disparaged when you were in your early?
Well, we worked on cholesterol. Come on, you want controversy? In those days, back in the 1980s, there were a lot of people saying cholesterol has nothing to do with heart attacks, and then it was too dangerous. You know, the statin drugs that we helped to develop stopped cholesterol production, and everybody was, people in the field, I mean, real experts in the field were very skeptical. How can you stop the production of cholesterol? Every cell in the body needs cholesterol, and you're going to kill people. And the Japanese, who had actually developed the first statin drug, they discovered the first statin drug, had a clinical trial going, and they stopped it and told all the doctors not to give another dose to any patient because they had been treating some dogs, and they thought that the drug was causing cancer in the dogs, and it turned out to be wrong. But the fact is, there are a lot of, in any career important in science, you have to withstand the criticism that comes. If it's novel, there'll be some opposition. But can I say one thing about what I like about this meeting? The fact that we're really on the campus of UT Austin. So I walked through the campus yesterday. I was very impressed at the, all the students scooting around, literally scooting around, because they're all on these electric scooters. But, if you really want to have some confidence in the future of America, I think seeing the energy in these young people was it's a very good thing. And I think it's sad sometimes, like when you're coming to Dallas next week, you're going to be in Las Colinas, which has nothing. Next year, I mean, and it'd be nice if it were closer to one of the academic institutions in Dallas. But anyway, I think this has been a very good meeting. I have to say that I learned more about artificial intelligence, and I was frightened more by the pilot.
The Colonel.
Than I must say. But at any rate, this meeting is fulfilling the dream that you had, and it's wonderful.
I wonder if we might close by recognizing some groups who are here.
Yeah.
And we'll begin, I have bullet points here, but to begin by recognizing Pete Winstead's law firm and Pete himself, and Kenny Jastro for raising that endowment and enabling the organizations to have a secure financial base. I don't know if Kenny is here. Is he here?
He's going to be here tonight. I know, he told me he would be here tonight, so hopefully people recognize him.
John Junkins from Texas A&M. John has been a core leader, was on the original committee, and has stayed with this organization at a personal level and on behalf of his university since the beginning. Is John available? Is John in the audience right now?
Larry, can I just say one word about John Junkins, because it illustrates this whole thing. So at that first meeting, I happened to be sitting next to John Junkins. I didn't know who he was or what he did. And something came up, and I was deriding something, and I said, oh, listen, that's so simple. That's not rocket science. And he said, well, I am a rocket scientist. That's how I found out about John
And John
Junkins.
has started the Hagler Institute at A&M, which is bringing Academy members and Nobelists to the A&M campus just to do, like if they want to write a thesis, or they want to take a subject, or they want to do research, or it's a kind of like a Rhodes Scholarship, but people who are already successful and wanting to do something different and having a place to do it. He's very creative, and he was here last year. I guess he may be here tonight. I'm not sure.
We also, there was mention earlier of Rebecca Nelson Davis, but staff is absolutely critical to the operation of this organization. Rebecca Nelson Davis is over here. I'd like to ask her to stand. And Lindsay Parham, I think, is not here.
Right.
Lindsay was a staff member on Kay Bailey's staff, and
She's been essential in this organization, and she had a family emergency, or she would have been here with bells on. She loves TAMEST.
and Beth Henderson, I wanted to mention also. Is Beth here? Beth was the first executive director. There've been really only three. Beth Henderson, Mary Beth Maddox, and now
Terrence.
Terrence Henry. So Terrence, stand up. Put on a good meeting here. Past TAMEST presidents and board members, that'll be a collection from this room. So let me ask the past presidents to stand. They've brought leadership to this organization. Surely we have a past president here.
I
We've at
saw
least got a
David.
current president. Come on.
Yeah,
Come on.
and I saw David
And then
Daniel.
board members, former board members, current board members. All right, well, everybody's good.
And
Past proteges or O'Donnell recipients that are now TAMEST members. And past O'Donnell recipients. All right. Well, an organization like this thrives by the human fabric that it develops over time, and this organization has developed it in the 20 years that we've now gone through, and it has succeeded brilliantly. You're the reason for that, and those of us who are sitting up here are proud.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
here.
We are. We're proud of you.
And I have kept us on time. It's 1 o'clock.
You are a chemist and an engineer.
And a good moderator.
Thank you.
Well done.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Larry.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
That was wonderful.
Thank you for being
Oh,
here.
of course.
It really made such a
You
difference.
did a good job.